Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the United Stand. It's a Sunday night show. Lots to talk about tonight. Rangnick's big week ahead. We will be doing a transfer business. I think Arsenal and Spurs were in that race for top four. Evening, Beth. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Adam, how are you, pal? Apart from your cough?
Yeah, I'm okay, mate. I'm battling through. Football's open finally, though.
And we've got Ricky on the show. I think's got some things he wants to talk about. Martial, how you doing, Ricky?
Absolutely over the moon, mate. I'm happy, yeah.
Good. Right, well, we're going to get straight into the show because there's loads to talk about. I want to talk about Declan Rice and whether he'd be suitable for United in the future. Also want to talk about, look, there's a few things going on that we're going to get into. I think the thumbnail's 2 in, 1 out, 1 in, 2 out. And that would be the ideal week, really. I think there's a few players that want to go. We certainly still need that midfielder, and what will happen over the next week, what needs to happen. The first place to start is, without doubt, Anthony Martial, and I think there's only one place to start, and that's the cheerleader of his fan club with Ricky there. Some of you might have seen some of his clips and antics yesterday, but look, I suppose the first question, Ricky, is what do you think is going to happen with Martial now? Some people think he may end up staying now. I think what Rangnick said after the game, to me, it still sounds like he's off this week. But is that the right choice? And what's your thoughts on the situation with Martial and what he did yesterday?
When you talk about the right choice, I'm not sure how much it's in United's hands. I think he wants to go. I love him. I just want him to stay. But I don't blame him for wanting to go. I think he's been treated. Look, I've said this time and time again. The players that have been left out, that he's been left out of the team for a couple of years, have been, they're far below his level as far as I'm concerned. I've said this a few times. If that was me, I'd pick my bag up and walk out of the calf. You know what I mean? So,
what players do you think specifically? Players that have left the club now, or some that are still there?
Played on the left ahead of Martial, time and time again, far more games and far. I don't think he's anywhere near his level. We've had this. I've had it with Adam numerous times. I don't think he's anywhere near his level. And I mean nowhere near. So to be sat in the dressing room, well, when I used to play amateur football, the team got named at like 10-3 or whatever, or 2 or different with United. You probably know the day before who's playing. But so it's a little bit different. I'd be tempted not to turn up if I knew I was on the bench. And don't get me wrong, you've got to have respect for your teammates, but sometimes it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned, and I feel for him in a big way. And I'm fed up of hearing people say that his form's been poor. His form's been poor. I like him on the left. He played on the left for 20 minutes yesterday, and 10 minutes yesterday. As far as I'm concerned, he changed the game. Made us play better football. He played on the left at Villarreal, where in a team where, look, everybody wants to see wingers making goals, scoring goals, but sometimes the team shape's more important and make sure that you're still in the game. So when we played Villarreal away, we needed a point, don't forget, from that game to still be in the hunt. We needed a point. The fact that we won it was a bonus, but we needed a point. And he kept the team shape great. They switched him to the left. This is the last time he played. I think I said this last week. The Evening News gave him 4 out of 10. I gave him 8 out of 10. The team shape was fantastic. Despite the fact that he got subbed after an hour, and despite the fact that we scored 2 after that, you've got to stay in the game. Don't forget, I can't remember the exact figures, but when we played Villarreal away, we've only kept about 3 clean sheets all season. We need to keep clean sheets. The time before that he played against Everton at Old Trafford. We were 1-0 up after an hour. Again, we're compact, we're solid. He's playing wide on the left. He scores the goal. He gets subbed after an hour, and we end up drawing 1-1. So that went well. How well did that go? And then, that's 3 times he's appeared on the left for us all season. All season. But there's one more. As far back as Wolves away. If you remember Wolves away, we were getting battered. Absolutely battered for 70 minutes. And I can't remember the fan cams. I wouldn't mind betting Adam and Beth might have done a fan cam. And they might have said, we came into it and we came strong the last 15 or 20 minutes, which we did. And I saw loads of reporters and I read lots of articles saying, United grew into the game and got stronger in the last 20 minutes. Anthony Martial came on with 20 minutes to go on the left. You know what I mean? Now, nobody said, it's because of that. And I'm not saying it's because of that, but whether it's all coincidental, but every time he plays on the left, we play better. And that's the sum total of his 4 appearances on the left this season. His sum total of 4 appearances, 2 as a sub and 2 for an hour, during which periods we haven't let a goal in. People think it's about scoring goals. His previous game before Everton away, I'm talking about his form. His form is fine. He didn't play before Everton, since we played City in February when he got man of the match. The people are talking about his form being poor. It's embarrassing. He's not played any games, and when he has played, he's been at least okay, if not really good.
I think the comeback for that is, and we'll get your thoughts on this, Beth, is that I agree with Ricky. I said I would have picked Phil Jones yesterday, and now Harry Maguire's put a performance in where apparently he should have got man of the match. I don't know what game people were watching. I thought Harry Maguire played well, but he's been crap all season, and the disrespect on Varane is unbelievable. But Maguire played well yesterday. I would have played Phil Jones because the match against Wolves, he was man of the match. And people say, oh, wow, it's only one game. And it's similar to what Ricky's saying there. The problem with Martial, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Beth, I think he will go because of what Ricky said. I think he wants to go because even Rangnick said it after the game. Martial showed the quality that he is, the top-class player he is, but there's lots of competition for places in that. And, you know, he basically said he's probably still going to want to leave. And that's the thing for me. I personally, I said it after the match last night, I would take Martial aside and say, if you can play like that for me on the left wing, you're my first choice left winger every week. You don't need to go anywhere and you'll still go to the World Cup. Do you think Martial wants to play on the left wing? And do you think that United should be putting him on the left wing? Or do you think it's time to part ways and that was a nice goodbye?
Do you know what? It's quite. Sometimes me and Ricky don't always agree, but everything he just said there, I completely agree with. I've been a fan of Martial for a very long time, like before I've been on the channel and everything like that. And do you know what? I've always rated him. Has he been inconsistent? I do think sometimes he has been, but at the same time, he's always been moved into different positions. He's never been given that chance to completely solidify a position, in my opinion. I think it's been really unfair the way he has been treated at 8 points in his Manchester United career. But I think he probably will leave. And I said on the show previously that I don't want him to go, but if he wants to go and he's not on board with the project, then you don't really want someone around the team, around the dressing room that isn't on board with what's going on. The only thing, I mean, after seeing him play last night, it reminded me why I did want him to stay and why I do want him to stay. I thought Alanga put in a very good performance. I thought defensively he was pretty solid as well. But people do claim that Martial is lazy. He's not lazy. He does get back when he's on the left wing, and I think he's one of our only forward players that makes very good decisions when he's on the ball. When he's in that final third, he, out of all of the forward players we have, he always looks to pass the ball unless there's a great shooting opportunity on. He only shoots if he has the opportunity to shoot. He always looks for the pass. He passes the most out of Greenwood and Rashford, and he plays a left wing role very, very well. He's not a striker for me. I don't think he's got the quality high enough to be a striker for Manchester United. He could probably be a striker for another team, and he'd be a good substitute striker. But as a left winger, I think he is top draw, top quality. I think he's creative. I think he holds the ball well, which we struggle to do a lot of the time. A lot of the time with our wingers, which is the problem, is they're looking to cut inside and shoot. They run into people, they lose the ball. And he's very good with the ball at his feet. Oftentimes he will hold it up and he will beat a man when he can, or he'll make the pass when he knows he can't do it. So I do rate him. And what I liked about the way he made that goal yesterday is he held the ball until just the right time. Like, he's got that intelligence. So I don't want him to leave. I agree. I think he would be my first choice left winger if he played at that standard every week. But I think he will go because he's never really had that respect and opportunity. For me at Manchester United, yes, he's made some... He hasn't always been top drawer and top class, but I do think he's deserved more opportunity and more consistency in the team on that left-hand side. And I think that should have been established way before that was his best position. And we shouldn't have tried to make him into this striker. We should have focused him on the left wing position, which to me, it is at fault of the club as well, that they never really made him into that player where I think he could have been really, really important for us.
It is interesting as we come to Adam on this. So just to add a little bit to what Beth said there, I am reading the chat and I'm seeing the same thing I've seen for 2 years. He's lazy. He doesn't defend.
He's not lazy.
And all this. And I'm like, in all fairness, I am a Martial fan, always have been. I've always liked Martial, but I put my hand up last season, Adam, and he was crap. And I thought Bruno was crap yesterday.
He didn't play last season, Mark.
No, he did. He had games last season. He wasn't very good.
He didn't play since January or February.
Yeah, but that game in January against Burnley, I would have walked. He's lucky there was no fans at Old Trafford against Burnley.
One game.
When he's bad though, everyone really zooms in on it. When other players have bad games, it gets ignored and they just start again. When he's bad, everybody zooms in on it, and I do think he gets unfair treatment in that respect.
100%. This is what I was going to say, and bring Adam into it. Is that I think he should play on the left wing. I don't know whether he wants to do that, but what I find really hard to stomach is that he came on the get. I mean, you give your opinion on it, Adam. It might be completely different. You might agree with the people I'm going to sort of disagree with here. I was watching that game and I was like, we're going to draw this game, because all I can see, and I'm not going to name the players because we all know who they were. They get the ball, they cut inside from 30 yards. There's a West Ham player in front of them and they think they shoot and they hit the West Ham player. And you're like, what are you doing? Why do you keep doing this time after time? Martial comes on, keeps the ball close, runs at them, gives the pass and moves. And it's like, shit, suddenly West Ham are like, bloody hell, what's going on here? And it leads to a goal. And it's like, this is why I wouldn't let Martial go, because he offers something so different to what we've got. And to people who say he's been crap, he's lazy, he doesn't defend. Hold on a minute. Last week, Martial was leaving, no one was talking about him. Marcus Rashford's lazy, defend, doesn't do this. But suddenly, Martial comes on and wins as a bloody game. And I know Rashford scored, fair play to Rashford, but let's not pretend we've got loads of other players who are defending, tracking back, and this, that, and the other. I remember that Liverpool game at Anfield, and Greenwood and Rashford just didn't track back, and we got absolutely slaughtered. And I think Martial does put a shift in when he plays in the left.
Old Trafford, not at Anfield.
Old Trafford, yeah, Old Trafford, yeah. So I don't know what you're... go on.
Yeah, I'll pretty much sum Martial's situation up in one goal. It's not what he can do on the ball. It's not what he can do on the pitch. It's his head. Do you want to play for Manchester United? Are you willing to be at Manchester United knowing that this is Manchester United and there's competition for places? You're never going to be number one. It's as simple as that. Deal with that and you will be fine. But he doesn't. Every time a top man comes in and challenges him for his spot, he goes off. He just disappears off the planet. And that's happened every time with Martial. I do believe that it's unfair on him that I think Ollie destroyed him personally. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer finished Martial in his tenure, convincing him that he was something that he wasn't. He's always been on the left. Vicky's argued with me before that he's a great centre forward. I don't think he is. He's not better than what's come in and give him competition. And that's been his problem. He was always best from the left because you guys just pointed out what he's good at there. His decision-making from there is miles better. Maybe in another era as a forward, it might have worked for him. But right now in this situation, it's not ideal for us. As a left-sided winger, I've always said it, that's his best position. And I would have him there. I would have someone else fighting for the right. If you look at it, we've got a direct option and we've got a clever option as wingers. You could have a Martial and a Langer option down the left. I'd say a Langer was more direct and pacer. You could have a Rashford or a Sancho option down the right, or a Rashford and Greenwood option. Rashford and Sancho option down the right-hand side. There's two different styles there, and you've got options, but you've got to accept that this is United, and if you don't put in the shift or you have an off day, you're not going to play the next week. And Ralf Rangnick's the first manager that's come in and done that. Really, I think Ralf Rangnick is the only manager that's been in this club over the last few seasons that's actually acted like a United manager. If you're not playing well, someone else will come in, and if he does well, he keeps his spot. It's as simple as that. And if you can't handle that as a player mentally, and it's not all their fault because, like Ricky said, some of them haven't been treated right, which is true. And they've got that in their head now. It's going to take time for these players to get on the Rangnick page, and we're seeing bits of it now. But it's gone so far with some that in their personal careers, they have to look at it and go, maybe I have to move on because I'm at a stage now in my career, I'm at that age where I just probably haven't got it in me to wait and go in with another project. And there could be another project in 6 months in June. So Martial's looking at it, and I agree with him if he wants to leave. There's no guarantee for any player in this team right now, I don't think. Rangnick's doing, I think I can see progress with Rangnick, I really can. And the issue with Martial is, I think the fact that he hasn't been in the team, I don't think he's going to get in this team as much as everyone else now going forward because of what Rangnick said, like you said, Mark. I just don't see it. I just don't think he wants to wait anymore. I think he wants to play every single week, and I don't think he's going to get that under Rangnick. Can he look ahead into his crystal ball and say that's going to happen with a new manager? I just think he needs to move for himself, and that's what he's thinking. I'd like him to stay. I'd like him to be the option on the left, but I have to be realistic. There's a lot of competition there, and I'm seeing now players under Rangnick actually come on off the bench and put a shift in, take their chance. Like you said, Maguire shouldn't have been in that team yesterday, but he took his chance. He did all right. Cavani and Martial came on yesterday, were absolutely superb, took their chance. Rashford's come on off the bench the last 2 games and scored 2 goals. He's taking his chance and getting slightly better. So this is where we need to be, but there's that many players and all the carnage that's gone on with the club from upstairs in terms of signing players, too many players exactly the same for the same position, and the mess that we're in, it's just too much for Ralf to deal with right now. And some players have just looked at that, I think, and gone, I just can't wait any longer. I need to get into a team. I need to be playing. And like Ricky said, I totally agree with the mismanagement side of it more than anything, mate. I think that's where the problem is now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, when you look at the substitution yesterday, I mean, look, Rashford, 2 goals in 2 games. I'm really happy for Marcus because he's, his confidence is rock bottom. He scores 2 goals, but, he couldn't wait to make that sub. That was one of the earliest subs I've seen at Old Trafford in a long time. It was 58 minutes to get Elanga on. And it was almost like, I've got to get Rashford back in this team. I've got to get him back in this team. And Rashford didn't do anything until the tap-in. And then you see what Martial and Cavani did. And I'm like, I actually didn't say it on my match reaction, Ricky, but I thought, really? Why is Rashford coming on? And it should have been probably Cavani, certainly Cavani, but maybe even Martial ahead of him. And maybe that's the problem with Martial. I think he will go because it's like, I'm down pecking order. I can't see myself getting game time, and I'm 26. And, as Adam quite rightly says, there might be another manager in the summer who, it does seem that the club, quite rightly, you've been around the club a lot longer than I have, Ricky, and the club like the youth setup, and Greenwood and Rashford and Elanga, they're the youth players coming through, and Martial's a 26-year-old player who's not from the youth.
The English bias in the media is absolutely astonishing. Did either of you, any of you, watch Match of the Day last night?
I've seen it.
Yeah,
no, I didn't watch it. No.
Danny Murphy said the 3 substitutes, which was Rashford, Cavani and Martial, made the difference. And then he said, but especially Rashford. And then he showed 3 or 4 things that Rashford did. And none of them were... Look, you've got to work hard. It's a prerequisite. He challenged for the ball in the box that they struggled to head out. He challenged somebody when they tried to clear it and it went out for a throw-in. Then he ran home and he lost it. So... And then they said, just because they said, I can't remember exactly how they phrased it, but basically Rashford was the main ingredient and Martial was a subplot player. Then they showed 2 things that Martial did. They showed him control it and pass it to McTominay. They showed him control it. He put a decent cross in that Ronaldo was a few inches from getting on the end of. Then they showed him putting the ball through for Cavani. So he actually said on air that he was the main difference and showed 3 things or 4 things that weren't particularly good. They were all, all right, but not particularly good. But then they showed 3 really good things by Martial. I just don't get it. There's an English bias out there from the press, from the media in general.
100%. And I think the goal itself, it was just such a good goal because Ronaldo, who just turned himself into a creator yesterday because I think he's realised no one's creating for me, so I'm going to start being creative myself. He passes it perfectly to Martial, who passes it perfectly to Cavani, who puts perfect cross in, and Rashford scores a goal. I'd score it. Ricky, you'd score it. Beth would score it. Adam would score it. It was a simple bloody goal because it had been made by Ronaldo, Cavani, and Martial's ability to not think about shooting from 30 yards and actually playing the pass. But we know that price is there.
To Rashford's credit there, though, and I'll quote Ricky on this, as a striker, you have to anticipate where that ball is going to be. And let's give some credit to Rashford for getting in that position as well, guys, because, yeah, you may say the simple things, and I know, Ricky, you love the simple things, mate. They make the game easier. He's been there last couple of games now in that position and put the ball in the back of the net and from the right-hand side as well. A lot of people have noticed.
I'd much rather him be there, Adam, than cutting
from
in
the
off
right-hand
side. Shooting from 40 yards.
Ricky won't have a problem with Rashford being on the right because he's a right footer. That's what he likes. Right on the right.
I think he's been better on the right, genuinely. I do think he has recently. And it's like he's scored the most goals in Premier League history past the 90th minute. He is.
I think he's a sub, Beth.
He's a super sub. Yeah, I wouldn't start him. I really wouldn't. I love Rashford, but I wouldn't start him.
Legs are tired. He's quick. Yeah.
A great sub to bring on as well if he's gonna to get you that goal. You've seen what PSG's done it before. Get the goal in the final minutes. That's what he's good at. That is one of his main qualities.
Yeah, I do like it. Look, we spoke about Martial there. I just want to, before we move on to something else, I just want to get a little bit of a thing. There's only a week tomorrow till the end of this transfer window. When we come back for the game against Borough, quick thoughts: will he still be at Manchester United? I'm going to say no. Adam.
For Martial, yeah, I think he'll be here.
Ricky?
I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm not sure.
Ricky, come on.
The picture of Rangnick when he came on the pitch, and you saw him shouting, Anso. He made a beeline for him. You know, you sometimes see managers do that to a keeper who's kept you in a game, and sometimes you see him doing it to somebody who scored the winning goal. But for him to make a beeline to somebody who's played for 8 minutes and played not even the pass that made the goal, but the actual pass to the person who made the goal, for him to do that is astonishing for me. And you can see that picture. He's holding him. They're like two long-lost lovers staring into each other's eyes. You know what I mean? I think Rangnick really likes him. So I don't know what's gone on. But I think Rangnick really likes him. I said this after his very first press conference where he said even Anthony Martial, because he wasn't in charge against Arsenal, he said even Anthony Martial only got 5 minutes or something against Arsenal. I think he really rates him. So I don't know what's going on. I don't get it. But Martial wants to leave. But can somebody, look, we're all guessing, aren't we? But who's going to pay? The United want his full wages paying, don't they? It's an impossible guess. You might guess it and you might guess it right. I just don't know.
Beth, what are you thinking?
I think he wants to go, but I think his wages will be too high for anyone to come and get him within the last week. But we'll have to wait and see. I won't be surprised if he does, but if I had to put money on it, I'd say he'll end up staying, to be honest. Maybe in the summer he might move on if he still doesn't get the game time.
We'll talk about more outgoings because Newcastle are apparently going to do everything they can to get Jesse Lingard, who I'd forgotten was even on the bench yesterday, to be honest. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about potential incomings. It's a big week, Adam. We've seen Arsenal drop points. We've seen Spurs drop points. They have got games in hand on us. There's talk of Adama Traore. There's talk of Kessie for Spurs. There's talk of Arsenal buying players. That midfield area, we've heard Zakaria mentioned. There's Kamara today. Hadara has been mentioned as well. We know Rangnick wants to bring a midfielder in, and I think we can all see why. Do you think he will? And do you think actually we can still get top four if we don't get one? Do you see this as an essential signing United have got to make this week? Rangnick wants it. The board probably don't want to do it. How important do you think it is? Because I personally thought the midfield, including one of my favourites, Bruno, yesterday, they worked hard, but they lacked creativity. All three of them. I thought they offered absolutely nothing yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, we came up against, let's not forget, we came up against a midfield who everyone's been waxing lyrical against in West Ham yesterday, and they created jack shit. So I look at it more as a positive and a solid performance rather than us lacking in creation, because we kept to the game plan, we kept our shape yesterday, and the midfield held their own against, well, let's be honest, a very, very good West Ham midfield. And I still thought Declan Rice was good yesterday. He just had to do it in his own half because he couldn't get anywhere, and I'm blaming David Moyes for that. But in terms of our midfield and us bringing one in, I don't think anyone's going to come in. I think Ralph's actually adapting now, and I think he is holding out and to see how he can actually use Paul Pogba when he comes back in, because it's going to be interesting because he's accepted that he can't play his full philosophy, his football, his formation, his style with this team, because we've gone back to the 4-3-3, adapting 4-2-4 like we did yesterday. And I do feel like he's accepting that no one else is going to come in. I don't think the player that he wants, and he said this before, Antti, the profile of midfielder I need isn't at this football club. Is that right midfielder there? Can he come in and integrate quickly enough? compared to what we've got right now, that is the tough one, because there's no guarantee a man coming in now into this pressure cooker, which is United in this position, is going to hit the ground running. Is it fair? This is why I don't think a player's going to come in at all. I don't think we're going to get anyone. I do believe it's all going to happen in the summer. And Pogba coming back in, I think Ralph's already bigged him up about his effort in training, and we know when he talks like that, it's usually a case of a player coming into the team. So I do believe we are with what we've got, and I still think we can make top four. Just going off what I've been watching recently, I'd say Arsenal and West Ham will fade away from what I've been watching. Tottenham are probably the one that we need to be mindful of. But if they don't bring anyone in, they're 2 injuries away from dropping right down the league because they're so reliant on some key players. So I think we can make top four. I said we wouldn't. And obviously, I will gladly take the slap in the face for being wrong. But I've just seen players getting on board a little bit more and adapting and being able to see out a game. We had the Villa game, and then we've sort of got better from that in managing a game, from learning our lesson how bad we was at the first half against Brentford, how bad we was at the end of Aston Villa, coming back in the second half against Brentford, and then controlling the whole game. Yeah, not fantastic, but I do believe that players are getting on board more, and we've got a few players coming into a little bit more form again. So that's why I think if we can just have a good run in towards the end, I think we'll get it. And it's a shout, isn't it? Top four. I still don't know. I'm going to start coughing again if you get me going. But yeah, I think we'll make it. I will.
We were talking about that before we went live, Ricky, weren't we? Actually, we were saying that we might end up getting top four just on default that everyone else is shit, which is what we've seen today. You know, look, let's be honest, we were a minute away from drawing with West Ham, and West Ham would say it's a great weekend for them because they've drawn at Old Trafford. The fact that we took 3 points on them, we move above them, you know, fine margins, and we're used to that as United fans. You know, we've seen plenty of bigger games than that where we've won it late at the end. But look, I think Adam makes a good point. I think that, you know, West Ham didn't really create anything either. I thought our midfield didn't really create much. But the difference for me was that I think Declan Rice stood out, obviously, as the best midfielder on the pitch, doing his job as a holding midfielder. His job is not to create, of course. I thought Bruno, Fred and McTominay worked hard, but on the ball, I thought they were very, very poor, especially Bruno, who's meant to be the creative player. I thought McTominay played really well against Brentford in the second half. And I think Fred's been poor for a few weeks now, apart from Crystal Palace. I agree with Adam. I think we might just get top four if everyone else messes about. But I still have massive concerns about that midfield. And Pogba coming back would only work if we had Matic of 3 years ago, because he's the only one who could hold that midfield. So I think Rangnick wants a midfielder because he knows that's the weakest area, and it's just whether the board will do anything this week.
As I've said a few times, we do need a midfield player, but it's getting the right one. I don't agree, as he's often said, that we can sign a player who can do the job of two players. You know, I think most people on here think that McTominay and Fred do the job of one player, but I think it is a job of two players. If you look at West Ham, I mean, you know, let's be honest, West Ham compared to us, they're not a massive club. They're a good-sized club. They're not a massive club. They're there or thereabouts with us. There's not much difference between us in the table, and they play with Rice and Souček. Rice and Souček are both defensive midfield players, and I believe that's where you set your standard, you set your base. And, you know, as much as I didn't agree with a lot of what Ollie said, Pogba didn't get into our midfield, and, you know,
no, you said that many times, didn't you?
90% it's McTominay and Fred. It was probably McTominay and Matic just as often as it was McTominay and Pogba. You know, Pogba was getting played on the left wing. So we don't really know how this manager will see it either. But, you know, so it's one thing sort of saying we might keep Pogba. But if we keep Pogba, will this manager see it that he needs to be in the midfield? You know, lots of the fans think he should be. He's got loads of ability. He's got all the ability in the world, but does he really apply himself well enough? You know, how often does he really play a really good game? Not that Fred has a really good game that often. McTominay, for me, because of his strength and his work rate, look, he's a big lad like Pogba, but I like physical players. He is a physical player. I'm much happier with McTominay than most people are. I think he's playing well, McTominay. I know his passing range could be better, and I know he gives some sloppy balls away. But when people talk about Pogba being world class, I see him give just as many balls away when he's playing. I see him get caught in possession probably more often. You know, McTominay wants to get it and give it, whereas Pogba sometimes holds it a bit too long. So it's a really tricky situation. We need another midfield player in place of Fred for me. But at the same time, I don't know how often he can play. He did play, I think he played 3 league games in a row up till the last one, or 3 games in a row. Matic, you know, I'm happier when it's McTominay and Matic. So the fact that he played 3 games in a row, I think he might start getting more game time. Not that we can't get a better player than that, or a fitter or a faster player. I don't think you'll get a player who passes between the lines better than Matic. Look, a lot of our problems over the years is not being able to break down the lesser teams in recent years. You know, we've done pretty well quite often against the big teams, but against some of the smaller teams, we need to be able to break them down. And it's in those games, I think, where Matic should play. I think Matic is, well, it is. I don't just think it. Without a shadow of a doubt, his passing is 5 times better than Fred's. I say get McTominay and Matic in the smaller against the smaller teams and share it around like that. If we don't get somebody, maybe against the bigger teams where it's all running around, working hard, maybe McTominay and Fred.
I think I just think McTominay and Fred are ridiculously limited players. I don't think they're bad players. I just think they're limited. I just don't think they're anywhere near good enough to take us to where we need to go. And they're fine. They might get us top 4, but I think we're just living in a land of, you know, it's like being on a treadmill and not going anywhere with McTominay and Fred. I can see them being here in 3 years and we'll be having the same conversation. At some point, a manager's going to have to make a brave decision. I don't dislike either player. I think as bench options, you know, if you've got an injury, you've got to use players like that. But I feel we're on a treadmill with them where people seem to think you've got to call them shit or great. And I don't like that. I think they're fine. I just think they're limited. And somebody would say, yeah, but Ollie loved McTominay and Fred and Mourinho and Sir Alex loves McTominay and Carrick loves him. And I'm like, there's a player at Spurs who's exactly the same. His name's Eric Dyer. Spurs fans cannot understand how he plays, but Nuno loved him. Mourinho loves him. Conte picks him. There are these players that, you know, they're not bad players and they do, for some reason, really appeal. And it could be God knows what in coaching. But one player yesterday, Beth, and you were at the game, Declan Rice, I couldn't move on Twitter for people saying, this is the man we need to go. He's going to solve our midfield problems. And he spoke quite glowingly about the atmosphere at Old Trafford yesterday. Obviously, we're not going to buy him in January, but is that the sort of player that you'd like to see United bringing in? Or is it just another player that is going to cost you probably 90 million and could be another expensive English player?
I think what the value in him at is too high. Like if like for me, he's a 40-50 million pound player, but do I want him at Old Trafford? Yeah, I do. He's Premier League proven. I think he's a very, very good CDM. I think in Euros he played well. I think he doesn't look out of place in a team full of stars. I think he would do that job very well, and I think he's better, a lot better than what we've got. I really do. I know people compare McTominay and Rice a lot of the time, but I do think Rice is a step up for me. And I thought even yesterday, when, to be fair, I thought the midfield dealt with him and Souček quite well, I still think he did stand out for me, like just in that CDM role. He knows it very, very well, and I do like him. Do I think looking towards the summer, if we don't get Rice, like that, like it's over, like we have to get Rice? I don't think it's like that. There is other options out there that we can go and get, but I do think he would be a good signing, and I can see him fitting into that Manchester United team. On McTominay and Fred, though, we need 2 midfielders, though. We need 2 midfielders. We should be buying one now, and we should be buying one in the summer. That's where we're at with it. For me, I think McTominay's improved under Rangnick. I think under Ollie he was getting compressed into this role that he's not. And last game, because we were playing a deeper line with Maguire, who did have a good performance, to be fair to him, McTominay again was pushed back, and I didn't see that side to him that I saw at Brentford that I really, really liked. But
he's
he
an 8,
still
not
played,
a 6, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, he still played well. But for me, when watching Fred over the last few weeks, like I just don't see us giving anything. Yes, he's put a few decent assists in, but as an overall midfield player, he just gets pushed off the ball way, way too much. And he's not a starting player for Manchester United. He's really not. And I feel like that midfield, it's just missing someone to come in. McTominay can play as that 8. You've seen that potential in him. He can play as that 8 with Bruno, with another midfielder in there. But for me, Fred's just holding us back so much. And McTominay, if he was playing the holding role, he'd be holding us back in that role. But he can play the 8 for me. Even as an 8, Fred isn't top draw. He's not for me. So we massively need a midfielder. We need 2 CDMs. And I agree, Matic probably is our best CDM, but he's just not the level that we need him to be anymore. And if he is, then it's only for 60 minutes a game. And then people say he can play it. He plays it, but he doesn't play it at the same quality. So we massively need a CDM. And if we don't get one in January, I think it's a missed opportunity. Even if you've got to take a risk on someone, bring them in. Competition for places, time to evolve into the football club, work on the game. I think you've got to make that sign and then go for the established CDM signing in the summer. And I would be over the moon getting Declan Rice, but there is other options out there that Manchester United should be looking at as well.
I was going to go to Adam, but I just wanted to bring you in on this, Ricky, because you're a big fan of Matic. I thought his contract was up in the summer. Bye Matic, off you go. He's got another. He's here for another year. He's here till 2023. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is just Manchester United all over, because what I'm going to say, and I want to know what your opinions are, Matic clearly can't play 90 minutes because Nemanja Matic, if he can play 90 minutes, there's no way you bench. You don't play McTominay or Fred ahead of Matic. I just don't really understand why he's at the club. I mean, because I like Matic. He's clearly the only guy who can play CDM, but he just can't be able to play more than one game a week, because I can't believe he's got another year. I thought this was his last year. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on the Matic situation. I know you're a fan of his.
Look, it's a tricky situation at the minute. You've got to have a squad to start with. You have got to have a squad. So it's one thing saying you don't know why he's here, but say McTominay or Fred's injured, and Matic does play some games. I think, like I've just said, I think he's played 3 of about the last 5 or 6 games. So he is playing.
There's no point having a backup who can't play 90 minutes. Villa, he played well for an hour, and then you could see him like it's like your phone when the battery's going. He was just dying in front of us.
Yeah, but Mark, you have got to have a squad, and we have only got these players. I do agree that we need to sign somebody, but you can't just ditch somebody and leave yourself with 2 if you haven't got somebody else. And I don't know, we don't know what the manager's going to think about Pogba. We don't really know, do we? We know the last manager in midfield definitely preferred McTominay and Fred, and I wouldn't put my life on this, but I think he even played Matic more often in centre midfield than he played Pogba. You know what I mean? So
I just don't think he can play 90 minutes.
You have got to have a squad. It's as simple as that. So unless we sign somebody else, it's good that he's here for another year, because we obviously we've got to get somebody else. I agree. But at the minute we've got McTominay, Fred, and Matic, and if the manager likes him, we've got Pogba. Obviously, the young lad who's at Forest. I watched the Forest Arsenal game the other week, Garner. He looks the part as well.
Man of the match yesterday against Derby.
Whether he played well in the Premier League regularly, that remains to be seen. So there is a couple of options there. Maybe they think Garner's going to be the answer. By the way, if you're saying change it now, but if we've got McTominay, Fred, and Matic, McTominay for me, he's got to play all the time. But if Fred and Matic are sharing games between now and the end of the season, and then Garner's the answer, it saves them 100 million quid, doesn't it? And then Matic is 4th choice perhaps then for the season. I mean, you still need 4, by the way. If one of them gets injured, he's 3rd choice. You know what I mean?
I like Garner. It bloody terrifies me that we're going to bring another youth player in and be like, I just think this team's got too many youth players who ain't good enough. I don't know. I don't know. I might be being controversial here, but I just think
Garner needs to be established into the team. If they are planning to bring him into the squad, you can't just throw him in the deep end. And for the time being, we need someone who can do it for 90 minutes, week in, week out, top quality. And Garner should be learning off that, coming on for like 20 minutes and being established into the team, in my opinion.
Oh, I see people in the chat going, Garner's the real deal. He's playing in the bloody Championship. Yeah, what we're going to do next season, opening game of the season at Anfield, Garner, off you go. You'll get fucking, Look, what did we used to do with the class of 92, Adam? You're old enough to remember. Nicky Butt was bled in over 3 years. Same with Beckham, same with Scholes. You can't, even if Garner's the answer, it's not like you're starting opening game of the season. You've got to look at, even McTominay's been bled in, whether he's good enough or not. You've got, especially in the midfield.
Look at how long
he needs
it took
a full
Foden
pre-season. Yeah, he needs a full pre-season. The team needs to be established. It needs to have a sort of running style of play for him to come and integrate into. If he's coming into it blind, then he'll be another failure, and that's not fully his fault. But for a young player to come into this team now, we've had many discussions about this. It's not really fair because the expectation is so high on him. I mean, Alanga's come in. That position on that left-hand side suits him down to the ground. It's great. There's another option there for us. But I would say that's a lot easier to integrate to at this moment in time than what this central midfield role is, because there's so much pressure on it. It's all United fans are talking about. And I just think maybe Garner would be the cheaper option of the two players that we need. Maybe Garner comes in the summer as a full pre-season with that quality midfielder that we're going to buy as well. So I think he needs to stay out. Definitely not bringing him back in January. Forget that. He needs a full season at Forest. He needs to just play that out and get better. He's doing well in the Championship. It is a Championship, but Harry Maguire pretty much failed in the Championship. Harry Kane failed in the Championship. There's a few players who never pull up trees there, but still come back with the experience and adapt to the Premier League quicker. You know what? Some players don't look great at that level because it's not the level they are. If you're looking good at that level, then maybe it suits you more. I mean, I'm not slagging him off there, but you know what I mean? He could come in, it could be too much in the Premier League. If a player goes off on loan and doesn't play well in the Championship, it might be because he needs better players around him to show it off more. So you have to I think he deserves a chance, but I need to see him in pre-season. I need to see a little bit more. I watched him in pre-season just gone. Seen a couple of games at Old Trafford with him there against Everton and Brentford, and he was good. He looks a bit raw, but right now, it all depends on the new manager again as well, though. It's just not fair on him at the moment. There's just too many other questions unanswered for someone like Garner to come in and actually hit the ground running. And the pressure on next season is going to be immense because people are looking for answers. People are looking for results straight away, and we've no idea if Garner's going to be the answer. I do think we need to buy a midfielder, two midfielders. If Garner's one of them, maybe that will work, but not fully convinced just yet, I'll be honest. And I know some Forest fans, and they're waxing lyrical about it. They absolutely love him. It's not you, mate. No, definitely not you. But they absolutely love him. But we'll see. It is a case of you don't know until he's tried. But
I tell you what, though, I'd worry if our midfield next year, considering Pogba's going to go, probably Van der Beek will probably go. Imagine if our midfield, Adam, next year is an aging Matic, Fred, McTominay, Garner, and well, that signing's going to have to be bloody brilliant, isn't it? Really
goes to show, though, doesn't it? When you've got a settled team, you can win a league with Tom Cleverley and Anderson. Do you know what I mean? I know that's going back. Don't think in the past and all that stuff. But when you've got a settled style of play and everyone knows their role, doesn't necessarily have to be that world-beating midfielder. It just needs to be someone who is good for that next player next to him, that better player. They don't have to be fantastic. Like you said, then Nicky Butt, Phil Neville, John O'Shea all played in that midfield and they knew the role. But everyone around them was settled. I do think that it has to be. It's so important, that midfield signing, because we got it wrong so many times over the last few years, and it's a tough one. It really is, and I think this is why they're probably taking the time. They're not, in a way, you got to look at it and go, got to give them a little bit of credit for not jumping in at the nearest opportunity and just buying anyone, because we've done this before, and I could roll off the names. Jesus, even under Fergie, we had some absolute duck eggs in that midfield, didn't we?
Can I just jump in there, because I can't agree more with what Adam's just said about the team needs to be solid, and you need good players around you. And if you can get away with certain players in your team who might not be of the standard of what some of the others are, so long as you've got a good, solid team. So I know Adam went back a long time when he was talking about when United were, but it isn't that long ago that Leicester won the league with, I forgot the lad's name now. What was the lad called? Drinkwater.
And where's Morgan at centre back?
Drinkwater played virtually every game for Leicester. They won the league, and then he signed for Chelsea, and he's never been seen again.
You did have N'Golo Kante.
It's fascinating what goes on in football. So he's doing a job there for Leicester. Don't underestimate that. They've won the Premier League, Leicester City, with Danny Drinkwater playing every week. You know what I mean? He can't get a game wherever else he goes. So you don't all have to be superstars. You don't all have to be superstars.
Adam would sign him up. He could do with a drink of water.
This is the comments to me.
Beth, I did want to bring this up because it's probably the story of the day. Really, it's been quite a quiet day around United. I think it's going to kick off this week. We've only got 7 days left, and the transfer window will close. There's people like Donny van der Beek, Dean Henderson. We've mentioned Martial. We might buy somebody hopefully, but Lingard seems to be the one at the moment with Newcastle willing to do anything they can to get him. I mean, look, he was on the bench yesterday. We made 3 attacking subs. He never came on. I mean, he's just not part of the plans. Is there any point in keeping Lingard? It doesn't feel like United want to keep him anyway. It's more about whether Lingard wants to wait for a payday in the summer.
Absolutely, we should be pushing this move 100%. You've got to try and get what money you can for him. He might not want to do it, but it's like, what is the point of having him? For me, he's literally the last down the pecking order for me when it comes to the attacking players that we've got. He's a good player, and he'd be good. He'd be very, very good at Newcastle. He'd be good at West Ham. I think West Ham should have signed him in the summer. I think that would have made a difference for them. But when it comes to the attacking midfield options, for me, he's not getting in. Bruno comes first. You've got Pogba coming back. He's not going to get in there. Look at the wing positions. Even Alanga's
coming back as well. Apparently, Mabry's going to be not loaned out.
Exactly. And he's been doing so well for Tunisia. And then you've got Alanga as well, who's coming through the youth now and coming onto the left wing. He's not a youth player anymore. He's actually looking for probably one of his final contracts. He needs to go. He's not going to get game time, even off the bench for me at the moment. I mean, we're talking about Rashford being a super sub. We're talking about possibly starting Sancho and Martial on the wings, and that means Greenwood would be on the bench. I mean, I don't agree with that completely at the moment, but Lingard is not going to get time for me, and he's got to go. I think he should go to Newcastle, and I think he'd go there and play very, very well and help them try and stay up. But if he wants to wait for the summer to go wherever he wants, then that's what's going to happen. And that's what you see a lot in football nowadays, unfortunately. But do you know what? With the new manager coming in and the players running the contracts down and players not happy, you're going to see a big, big shift at the club in the summer. Like, thinking about it then, if Pogba and Donny van der Beek goes, Lingard as well, you're going to have to buy another midfielder as well as I think we need 2 CDMs. So it's going to be a massive summer for Manchester United, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens because these people are going to need replacements. But Jesse Lingard, for me, doesn't even need a replacement. We've got so much attacking forwards that can do the job for me better than he does. So I think you've got to try and get some money for him. And to be honest, it was the worst decision ever to keep him in the summer and not sell him to West Ham and not try and get that deal done. I feel sorry for Jesse because he was obviously told false promises that he was going to get game time. That never happened. But at the same time, Manchester United, it's your own fault that you're not getting the money that you rightly should be for him because you made him stay to try and, I don't know what the point was in that, but he should have gone last summer, and he really, really does need to move on because he just keeps drifting further and further into the background for me. But he's a good player and he shouldn't be wasting his talent and potential sat on Manchester United's bench, never getting a minute.
Yeah, Ricky, I can't remember ever asking you about Lingard. Why do you think Lingard's not getting game time? What is it in his game that, or do you think he should be getting game time?
Well, personally, I'm not a fan of Lingard. It's a long time since. Look, every time somebody comes through the ranks, I give everybody a good chance, a good coat of looking at before I make my mind up. And I've never been a fan of. I won't say never. At first, I remember him scoring a cracking goal against Liverpool and obviously he got. Did he score in 2 cup finals for us as well? He can finish a chance, but to me, his decision making is not good enough. He doesn't pass it well enough. The goal I was going to talk about against Liverpool, by the way, was when they won a little tournament in the States. I know it's only a pre-season tournament, but it's against Liverpool. We always like to beat Liverpool, and he took it brilliantly. As I always say, you can't get to play for Manchester United if you haven't got some sort of ability. So obviously he's a decent footballer, but for me, he's not Manchester United standards.
Yeah, Adam. I mean, the funny thing is, he's probably ahead of another player I want to talk about. I think we'd all agree that Jesse should go. I mean, he's not getting any game time anyway, and I'd rather see Hannibal on the bench than Jesse because, I mean, that at least that's like we've seen 10 years of Lingard. Like Ricky's right. We know what he's all about. He's not going to get any better. And, most of us don't actually think he's good enough anyway. So I'd rather, start rotating these players out of the club and, giving a Hannibal a 3 or 4 months. And if he's not good enough, you buy somebody in, don't you? But, I mean, he's probably ahead of Donny, who, look, we spoke about the midfield yesterday. Forget McTominay and Fred because we always talk about them. But, Donny could have come on for Fred, let's be honest. But, I mean, I thought Bruno was poor yesterday. He could have been took off for Donny just to try something a little bit different and still didn't get another minute. But, he's another one. Somebody just said there, you don't talk about Donny anymore. My stance on Donny is he should just go into the office and say, I want to leave and I'm going to the press tomorrow to tell him I want to leave. Just get me out of this club. But he doesn't seem to do it. He just sits there with a miserable face.
That's it, innit? He seems to be like a cheerleader, doesn't he? Always there celebrating when the players score and stuff like that, cheering the boys along. He's like a fan, isn't he? Right now, I've given up hope completely on.
I don't mention it anymore, really.
It's second manager in a row. It's like, what is going on? I mean, we've said it before on other shows. It's like Alanga's played well in training. He's got his place. If players do well and they put the effort in, they're there, aren't they? I mean, his contract's there long enough. He was looking to stay long term at Manchester United. So why wouldn't Ralf pick him? There's obviously an issue there. I don't ever see him starting a game for Manchester United again. I really don't. I don't see how he gets in. He would have been in by now. There's been games where he can come in. We thought maybe this is the one, but he'll never start a league game for Manchester United. Simple as that. And the fact that Lingard is ahead of him tells you everything you need to know. The guy wants out of the club. He's pretty much holding the club to ransom just in spite of what Ollie said to him in the summer, like Beth said. And he can't even get ahead of him. So, yeah, Lingard, time is up.
I've got more assists. You were there, Adam, actually. Someone was just talking about how many minutes. I think I've got more assists at Old Trafford than Donny van de Beek.
Yeah, I was at that game as well. Yeah, I think the only position you didn't play was in goal, Mark, in that game. Or did you go in goal?
Actually? No, I did go in goal, yeah.
You went in goal as well.
We were winning 5-1 and it ended up being a really close 5-4 when I went in goal. Yeah. But I did get 2 assists, so yeah, I've got more assists than Donny.
Lingard needs to go, mate. I kicked off Royal when we gave him the contract a few years ago. I think it was like in 2018 or something like that when he got a new deal, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's so you can sell him on. It's a sell-on factor." Well, look at us now. What's he cost us in wages? And he's not contributed nothing to this team. This is why I go mad when we give these contracts out. The next one will be Eric Bayer. What is he going to give us on this 5-year deal? Do you know what I mean? Phil Jones got one.
You just make a good point there. Just bring that into your answer as well. Eric Bay's a player that's looking to go this week. I mean, is that a good move? He's the only quick centre-back we've got apart from Varane. We're just going to go with Jones, Maguire, and he's another one who could go this week.
I said it. Stupid FC moment when Eric Bayer was rumoured to be going to AC Milan. I was like, you want to get rid of Eric? You're going to let Eric Bayer go now when you look at Maguire's been out injured. Lindelof's been out injured. Varane's been out injured already this season. Let's not even get into old legend Phil Jones in terms of injuries. Why would you be looking to get rid of a centre-back now? 4 is okay. I still believe you need about 5. One who accepts his role like Phil Jones will be when needed. I think he's happy with that.
I don't know whether you noticed it at the match. Phil Jones was the only defender on the bench yesterday.
This is what I mean. And you want to get rid of Bayer? Right now, as the season's going and we know we're not going to spend any money, just for the sake of, in case we have an injury crisis, which is always there and can always happen, especially with centre-backs and Man United. Jesus, you don't want to be getting rid of Eric Bailly right now. Surely not. I mean, he's been okay when he's come on. He's been decent when he's played for us. And if you need cover, like Varane, if he goes down, you know what I mean? You're talking there about a bit of pace and whatnot. His recovery time is decent. Yeah, he can be a bit rash, but he's another option there as well with a bit of experience. So why get rid of him? It's going to be interesting because as far as I know, how far are we up? The 23rd of January. Window's been open 4 weeks. How many games have we played in that spell? And how many points and lost ground have we had? If anything was going to happen, it would have already happened. So nothing is going to happen. And we're probably going to be sat here in a week's time talking about no one leaving and no one coming in and how we can balance this squad around again going towards the end of the season in May. It's just the way we work. But like Beth said, I think the proverbial will hit the fan in the summer and it'll be one of them monumental summers in terms of the transfer window.
Be a nice new job for somebody unless Rangnick keeps the job. I mean, that was something I wanted to ask everybody, actually. Go to you first on this, Beth. It's a good question, actually. I should have said it sooner. Ralf Rangnick, he's settled in a bit now. We're starting to see, he's dropped a few players. All right, he's brought them back in, but that's sometimes pick up the arse is what's neaded. He's adapted his tactics. He was doing a 4-2-2. He's now gone to this 4 holding midfielder, two wide and 1 up front again. He's got us into 4th place for now. Is he? Where are you sitting on the manager of Manchester United next season? Is Rangnick somebody that you're starting to think, yeah, let's give him a long-term job, or are you thinking no, interim and let's have a new manager in the summer?
At the moment, for me, it's interim and the manager in the summer. I do think he's good. I do think he's come in and I do think he has improved the team. And this is what I was talking about with someone yesterday. He turned to me and he said, Beth, do you really think Rangnick's made that much of a difference? And for me, he has. I think he's changed the mentality around the club in the sense that people now know that they can't play bad and then start week in, week out. There's competition for places. The players seem a little bit more hungry. I think defensively he's massively improved us. Before we were so poor, it defensively, like so poor. Recently, really improved them elements of the game. I think the way that he's brought Dalot through has been a revelation. I think Dalot is by far our best right back, and I'm really enjoying that. Enjoying Luke Shaw needs competition for places. Do I still think he's my first choice left back? 100%. But Alex Telley's coming in and giving him that competition. It keeps Shaw on his toes because we know what he's like when he hasn't got that competition. His form does often dip, and I do think you are seeing Manchester United each game slowly get better. He made a mistake at Aston Villa. He learnt from that mistake and he changed it in the Brentford game. And I do think he subbed yesterday as well. He took that risk. A draw wasn't enough for him. He knew that. He threw on them attacking players and it paid off for him. I think he needs some time because I thought the club was in massive disarray, more than what a lot of outsiders saw when Ollie left it. And I think he came into a dressing room that was full of players that weren't happy with the situation that the club was in, weren't trained hard enough. I mean, the fitness as well, when we saw Ralf come in, wasn't there. So I think he has made improvements to their team, and I think he's got more improvements to give. There's no taking away the fact that he is a good coach and he knows what he's doing. He's never been to the Premier League before. He's adapting to that. So mistakes have been made. The way he talks in press conference, straight talking, I really enjoy listening to him. I think he speaks very, very well, straight to the point. Even his press conference the other day basically said Lingard's not going to get a chance at United. Just put it out there, saying he's not one of his first choices. He's honest. But at the moment, I still think we need that reset in the summer of a new manager to come in. And I think, for me, that will happen. But the fact that Rangnick will still be at the club and talking to that new manager and helping make decisions is a positive for me because I think he's been positive since he's come in and I think he has improved us. Ricky,
Same sort of question, really. Is this the sort of man that you'd like to see us taking us into next season and building on what he's doing? There has been some positives that it's a slow build, but what's your thoughts?
It's definitely improved us slowly but surely. But to be dead honest, you could hardly not have thought we were that poor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you said a couple of weeks ago that you weren't overly impressed with him. I remember you saying that.
Yeah. He is improving us slowly but surely. It's taken him a short while, I think, to realise who the better players are, and I think there's still more to come in that respect. as much as it went well for us last week, you know how defensive-minded I think, and I'm sure 99% of people will be against me. I think we were just pretty lucky with the amount of attacking players he threw on. Against a good, even a team as good as West Ham. I don't mean like even better teams than West Ham. Even a team as good as West Ham, it can so easily go against you. You know, we had Rashford on one wing, we had Martial on the other wing, we had 2 centre forwards, we even had Bruno in midfield, who's a really attacking player. You know, we had
a risk.
We had 5 really, and it worked for us. But you've also got to think about this. It was after those substitutions have been made. You know, I know it's an header from a corner, and that can happen at any time. But maybe if you play with more defenders, maybe they don't get that corner. But they had an header from a corner that went about a foot wide. Remember that? Like he flicked it and it went about a foot wide at the far post. And then from the left wing, they had a raid down the left wing where the cross got deflected and it hit the post. You know, on another day, it might have gone against us. You know, I think he threw too many attacking players on. Although on the day it worked, I don't think it had worked for you that often. I think more often that would go against you by having too many attacking players on. And there, but for the grace of God, we could have lost yesterday if one of those chances would have gone in. But then it went. So I think that's a little bit rash. Although it was great on the, and I'm sure lots of people have saying in the comments, "Oh, what are you talking about? You know, we won the game. We did win. But there's so much. I think you used the phrase a short while back, Mark, on this show. I think you said it's a fine dividing line, and it is a fine dividing line. You know, I mean, we could have easily lost that game because, in my opinion, we had so many attackers on the field. But it did work. Next time he does it, it probably won't work. That's how I see it. So, you know, I'm not 100% convinced. He's doing a decent job. We are improving. I'm hoping we go for Ten Hag next season. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that, Adam. I think he's done a great job considering, you know, the bitching in the dressing room, the amount of players that he's inherited are unhappy. When we started the show talking about Martial, let's not forget Martial. The day Rangnick came, basically said, "I want to leave." It didn't even care that it was a new guy. It's like, "I've had enough of this. I want to go." So he's had lots of problems to solve. Not to mention a team that was getting battered by teams like Watford. I think he's done a good job, but I think Ricky makes a good point. For me, you know, and it might change. Football changes all the time. I mean, I don't think we're going to get top 4, but I acknowledge the fact that it's looking better than it was a week ago. But I look back at the week and I think, well, we should have beat Villa, and he didn't make the subs he needed to, so that was on him. Against Brentford in the first half, we could have been 2-0 down and we wouldn't have won that game. And then yesterday, like Ricky says, you know, he went for it and I loved it, but it could have gone against him. But I suppose lucky, risk-taking. I can see what he's doing, and I am enjoying it. But
you could look at
I
it.
haven't seen enough yet. I haven't seen enough yet to say that I'd go with him full time.
It all depends how you want to look at it. You could look at it and say, look, we haven't put a full game of football together. Against Aston Villa, it was 70 minutes. And then from that mistake, you learnt from it. Do you know what I mean? And we got a second half performance. And then you go, right, okay, we had our usual United performance in the first half against Brentford. And I was there in the way end. Ricky was there as well. And we were all looking at each other. I'm sure Ricky was thinking, saying, oh, United, here we go again. But then again, we actually got a reaction this time. Someone went into a changing room. And this has happened many a times. We've come out and we've gone, has anyone actually gone in that changing room and said anything? Brentford, we did, and we came out. We should have scored 5. So you got to look at that as a positive. And then you put both of them games together, and we actually control the game against a decent team. The only team he's played so far that are ahead of us in the league and better than us on paper, and actually limit them to absolutely nothing. And it was nothing, not one shot on target. Set pieces are set pieces, like Ricky said, that can happen at any point. But the only save De Gea had to make was a deflected cross from Declan Rice out of desperation, running forward for the first time in the game because they couldn't create nothing. So you look at it and you go, right, okay, he's got Rashford on at the end, what looked like the end of his career, absolutely in the pits, turning him around. You've got Alanga coming through out of nowhere. You've got Martial who said to him he wanted to leave, and now somehow he spoke to him after the disaster of Villa and brought him round back into the team again. I think there's more positives than there is negatives. You can look at it however which way you want to look at it. I'm all for United being at Old Trafford. It's 0-0 with 10 minutes to go. What are you going to do? Sit back and take a draw and finish 5th and 6th in the league? Bollocks. Get the players on. Let's go for it. Let's do what Fergie did against Spurs and put the forwards on. Let's just do it. And let's just try and get the crowd on side, because that's what happened as well. The crowd responded to that, and the crowd brought that team through towards the end as well. And that's what we've not had at Old Trafford, a togetherness. So for me, Ralf is ticking boxes, absolutely, and I'm all for it. I do believe that we need to stick to our decision, though, and go interim, new man in the summer. There's
nothing wrong with saying that, because ultimately, ideally, they listen to Rangnick. He moves into a position of power in relation to the bigger structure of the club. Look, if the dressing room's broken and where we are in the league is broken, it's a lot more broken in the boardroom and everything, and that's where I'd like to see Rangnick going after this. I think that a manager,
we were 8th, weren't we, mate? Ollie left. We were in 8th. Now we're in 4th.
It's like Beth says as well. You know, there's a massive summer to come ahead, and I don't necessarily think Rangnick's the man to run it in the summer, because he'll have forged relationships with players, which he had to forge, whether it's Pogba, whether it's Donny, whether it's Rashford, whether it's Maguire. He'll have forged relationships with these players because he needed to. Whereas we really need a manager to come in the summer who hasn't got relationships and go, you know what, I've been watching you for a couple of years. I don't think you're good enough. Whereas I don't know whether Rangnick would do that in the summer, because he'll have made relationships with people already. So, look, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, it will be. We'll be interested to see what happens. I do agree. I thought that what he did yesterday, I think he did it. It did remind me of Sir Alex. I think it was risk. I agree with Ricky. It could have gone wrong, but I think it was like, I can't draw this game. It's too good a result for West Ham. I can't look back at this and go, we haven't won it. I think it was a calculated risk and he went for it. And we haven't seen a lot of that since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. So
like you said, mate, he's been put in this position where he has to take probably more risks than what he wants to do, because we're down in mid-table when he came in. So if he was more in a comfortable position from the start of the season, you might not have seen that yesterday. So I think he's been forced at such to actually get some sort of results and make decisions like that. It's not really fair on him, and it is the impossible job, which he's doing all right at the moment.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. We're 4th at the moment, but obviously there are a lot of teams. I think even if Wolves win their game in hand, they're only a point behind us. So almost every game becomes, even Burnley away, and then I think we've got Southampton at home. You know, they're all games where if you draw, it suddenly becomes a bad. Just like Arsenal today, drawing at home to Burnley, that's a bad result, and we're in the same boat there. Just very quickly before we wrap up, I just want to go round just a little bit of a prediction as to do you think we're going to get top 4, Beth?
I do think we will. I was positive a few weeks back, and I think Rangnick now has got the tools to get us top 4. That squad of players for me should be getting top 4. And like Adam said, Spurs are only an injury away from dropping off. The fact they have Conte scares me, but I do think we'll get top 4. And I believe that he has got the capabilities to get us there.
Remember, Beth did predict we'd win the title in August.
Yep, so don't always listen to me, guys. Do you know what? Next season.
Well, I mean, look, I can't believe I didn't agree with Beth winning the league, Ricky, but I did say
you said Champions League, I swear, so don't even start.
I said top 4's on lockdown. I can't believe we're even in a top 4 race, but that's the previous manager's fault, Ricky. What are you thinking now? Are you thinking that top 4? Do you fancy us for it now, or do you think it's still very difficult?
I do now, yeah. Going back to the beginning of the season, I think I said 4th at best when we was asked for our predictions. But now there does seem to be improvement slowly but surely, and we've already climbed it. I know they've got games in hand. I think Spurs are only 2 points behind us with 2 games in hand, I think.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, look, if he just keeps improving gradually, I think he'll do it. I hope he does. I think we'll get it, yeah.
Adam? You change your mind? Get your flip-flops out?
Yeah, I've got my sliders on now, even easier just to flip on and off. Yeah, I do believe we've got the strongest squad. We've got so many players. And the fact that we're not going to be ending up selling anyone, and the way that Ralph's handling it at the moment gives me confidence. So I'll say our squad depth, and I think they brought that up on Match of the Day as well, that United utilise their squad depth. And the players we've got off the bench, we've got game changers, which I don't think West Ham, Spurs, Arsenal have got. I think that's why we may just edge it. So, yeah, I'm sort of going the opposite way from what I've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think what we've done over the last week, we've got a better chance. I agree. I watched Spurs today. Son's out. They haven't got anything. Arsenal haven't got anything, and West Ham, if they lose Antonio or Bowen, haven't got anything. So we should. I agree with Beth. I think we should do with that squad. We should get top 4. I'm still going to say, just to offer things, maybe a bit of devil's advocate, still going to say I don't think we're going to get it, because I do think Spurs and Arsenal will spend this week. And if we don't, that they're not in Europe as well, and they've got the games in hand. So I look at, and also we haven't played a 90 minutes game yet where I think we're capable of going and winning lots of games, even though we've won our last 2. Brentford, we shouldn't have won it based on the first half. We deserved it, but we could have lost it. West Ham's probably our best game, though, so you've got to go off your last result. So I think we've got it in our hands again, which I didn't think we did have about a week ago, but I'm still not convinced. I still think with this United team, the thing is you start getting predicting things and they'll blow it. So a little bit too early for me to start saying we're going to get top 4. But look, I really hope we do, because I think if we don't, the summer's going to be a lot worse than we think it's going to be.
I do think it massively depends on if Varane stays fit as well, because he's been so solid recently.
Yeah, despite the big squad, there's a couple of players we can't lose, and I'd agree with that. We can't lose Varane because, but having said that, and I think you've said this before, Ricky, it's about organisation. This point of the season, if United can just keep the clean sheets and nick the goals, it might not be great for us to watch, but that's something I don't think Arsenal, Spurs, West Ham necessarily are good at, and that might be the difference.
That's what he's working on, mate. Just getting back to your point about them not being in Europe, we might only have 2 games left in Europe. I could easily see that happening.
Yeah.
So that might not make much difference. If they do a bit better than us, are they both still in the FA Cup? Spurs.
Well, Arsenal aren't.
Arsenal aren't.
Yeah.
Spurs are, I think. Yeah. Arsenal are just focusing on 4th.
Yeah, because.
On that, Ricky, me, you, and Beth will all have a pint together in Madrid and celebrate the last day in there.
Oh, we are going.
We are. We're all there.
Oh, that'll be sick.
Can't wait for it.
Yeah, the weather will be nice, I think, by the time then. Anyway, really enjoyed the show. Thanks for coming on, Ricky.
Pleasure, mate. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Go and rest your voice.
On it. Cheers, everyone.
And Beth, pleasure having you on.
Yeah, great to be on. Hopefully we start moving forward and we do get top 4.
And thanks everyone who's been tuning in. Really enjoyed that. Obviously we'll be back tomorrow. I think we've got Fabrizio on the show at 2 tomorrow as well. So we'll be able to he'll probably just tell us nothing's happening and that'll be the end of it, won't it? So, but at least we'll know, so we've got Fabrizio tomorrow and the normal shows. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you all in a bit.